Also, it's a pleasure to read with Patricia. Do you remember, Patricia, remember that we read together? It was my first reading ever in New York City. I moved here in 1998, and the book came out in 1999, and we read together at the Hudson Valley. It was like 1990. Yeah, it was like 1999, right? That's what, 10 years ago? Wow. Okay. Look at us now. Look at us now. All right. So this is the newest selected, and I like to refer to it as my recycled book because it goes back to my previous collections and a few new ones. So I'm going to read a few of the older poems, just to remind myself, really, of the poet that I used to be, the baby poet. And then I'll work my way towards the more recent poems, the post-50 years of age poem. All right. So this is one of the advantages of the newest selected. And I consulted a number of people that had done these, and I asked, did you change anything? Did you revise anything? And some said yes, others said no. Some stayed true, and I couldn't resist. I thought I could, but I cannot resist changing. So I'll tell you, for this one, I'll tell you what change I did make, and I thought, it kind of updates it a little bit more. But in the original version, the second line said, "Guide my sons home from the bar." And because of the tumultuous COVID era and the things that were already sort of looming on the horizon, these new wars that were clearly going to happen, so I changed it to guide my sons home from the war. Doña Maria greets her comadre, Doña Luna, at the balcony window. "So you're staying up again, Doña Luna, waiting to guide my sons home from the war. Then let me help you push out the dark with this face these hands have wrinkled, a face shaped the way a restless woman shapes the folds and furrows on the sheets. How do you manage it, Senora? How do you keep your fingers from digging into those worries half-stitched against eyelids? What stops you from throwing down your cheeks like bowls of beans gone bad, waiting for the spoon that never comes? What thoughts swirling within you don't break you off and chisel you? Someday I too will be bald as rock, having unspooled the last thread from my head. There is no shame in that. It's what makes us comadres, a pair of copper cazuelas, identical molcajetes from the mother stone. The stone that knows how to hold its breath, the stone that watches and teaches how to watch, the stone that keeps the earth in its proper place, the stone that separates the oceans from the skies, the stone that stops the floods and snuffs out fires, that lid of stone which seals our deaths. And this old woman will have her peace when her tongue shatters and all her complaints dissolve into ash. But you are the unlucky one, aren't you, Doña Luna, because you will open your eyes 1,000 nights after God has pressed his thumb over my heart, and that night will be the same as the nights before, and you'll see how 1,000 nights after that, worriers and insomniacs still call on you, supplier of the knitting needle, rocker of the cradle, guardian of the blue mazorca, keeper of the restless fish. How everyone looks up to you as if you could solve the riddles in our dreams, as if you had risen solely to cut through the darkness of our sleep. How many times we will expect you to tame bad dreams. When the child awakens suddenly with a glint of light scaring his eye, you'll be asked to help him see within you the harmless white in a dead hen's tongue, the Lord's round ear, the hand that received his birth. And this boy will become a man, and that man might awaken one night to that familiar boyhood fear, and you will soothe him then too, showing him his bride, her breast, her belly, the wheel that spins inside. And this man will become an old man, having long since learned to identify in you his tempered wisdom, which he will always believe he achieved on his own, which will trick him into climbing through that hole and into the pit of the other side. And another man will rise from a dust, and another man will unhook his hands from his jaw to let his voice fly home. And still, nothing puts you out of your sky, nothing, not the girls who grow their hair beneath you, collecting secrets like combs and letting in dusks like bedmates, not the women who round off their faces beneath you, taking your lines to their calves, your color to their heads, not the old women who beneath you weave their own shrouds, night after night after night. And every night is the same night. You were given no choice. All this time you thought you have faced the other way, or maybe all this time you never looked our way and kept us ignorant because it never mattered that we named you we named the back of your head El Farol de Enamorados, expecting you to open a mouth and bring out that passion called tongue, to lift up the nose like a skirt, such sweet smells, to expand the cups of the hands, the pillows of the thighs, to part every cleavage and limb and expose the hidden moistures caught between dark and light. How much does it matter if you ever try to show us different, when we'll always believe it is you sending lust through our veins? You're to blame, though when we jerk our heads like owls, trapped in the woods by the noises of night, you will give us your quilt and say nothing. When we show you the sores on our feet, those tears on our skins like old clothes, you give us stitches and expect nothing. So what comes next? Do we lift our empty hands and mouths in your direction? And will you, kind señora, good mother, take nothing in exchange for your bread? Poor Doña Luna, poor comadre, there is no rest for you. We have given you so much responsibility that we've forgotten what tiny bones we have, what small spaces we occupy. Today, here we are, comadres, a pair of curandera eggs, sucking up the cries that keep the alleys wide. Tomorrow, my body may adjust itself under the sheet, and you'll wait up for other sons alone, señora. That's why I'm here now, weak and sleepless, pretending this night I'll plug one burden off your eye. So I wrote that in my 20s. That's kind of, I had more energy then. The poems had gotten shorter, you know. So this is a Latin term which I think 1,000 people have explained to me how to pronounce it, and 1,000 times I've lost the pronunciation. It's one of those things. So it's morti vivos docent, I think, and it means let the dead teach the living, and that is the motto of the morgue. And this is a joke I always tell. There's supposed to be a crown of sonnets, but it's only 3, so it's my tiara. and if you ever want to read the sonnet, the crown of sonnets of all sonnets, it's Patricia Smith. In the trunk, a blouse with breasts, a skirt stretched open by hips that have shaken off the last whiff of talcum powder at the pothole, clumsy dancer, dropping her shoes somewhere between Mexicali and Calexico. If she were breathing, she let the whiskey tell the tale, sultry syllable after sultry syllable, si, mi amor. Mummies are the century's mermaids, rattling songs that will stop a heart if we let them, says a whale-eyed sailor, hands cuffed to the steering wheel, mumbling the madness of a man who found a woman whistling beneath a Mexican moon. Music so pretty, he just had to keep it from ruining the terrace world. This is how you ruin the terrace world. Cut out the yellow heart of heaven, drop the bloodless stars into the sea, blind the women who sit to wonder on the shore. I knew such a woman. I've kept her comb in my purse after all these years, since the night my father found her walking home from the Cachanilla Hills. You know the names, El Abanico, El Dólar, La Puta Eva, El Pinche Adán, places so plump with pleasure, even the air turns to stupor, drunk with a sensory coma. Clarification. She was not the body in the ruby corset, not behind the pair of tassels, not inside the scent of tangerines. My mother was a mop in the bucket, wiping off the fingerprints on the promiscuous wall. This is how you press against the promiscuous wall. Drill the pair of diamonds on your back and moan. Hold your breath. Float face down in the vertical pool. Sway with the shadows that set in motion by a swinging chandelier. An angry father come to claim his child. He did not catch me then, but he caught me walking home, my knees still numb from dancing with men who love their mamacitas pink and puckered as if they're sipping wine transparent as a cloth across their thighs. What could I do with lips like mine but kiss or whistle loud enough to be the visible woman my overworked mother never was? So, papi, keep your only son holy as you stuff me in the trunk. I'm wearing mother's blouse, my mother's skirt.
Come on.
This is you never know where inspiration comes from. And this one poem, I was inspired by an entire book that I wrote about the bubble, the housing bubble bursting in Florida. And one of the details that was so amazing, because the young man who wrote the book was in charge of cleaning out the homes that were foreclosed. And one of the details that was so unsettling was that for many of these folks who lost their homes, they would just walk out. They would leave everything there, photographs, personal, sentimental. They would just leave everything because that was it. That whole identity was taken away from them. So they literally just got up and left everything behind. I just can't imagine that kind of loss. So it's casa, house. Casa. I am not your mother. I will not be moved by the grief or gratitude of men who weep like orphans at my door. I am not a church. I do not answer prayers, but I never turn them down. Come in and kneel or sit or stand. The burden of your weight won't lessen, no matter the length of your admission. Tell me anything you want. I have to listen, but don't expect me to respond. When you tell me you have lost your job, or that your wife has found another love, or that your children took their laughter to another town, you feel alone and empty. Color me surprised. I didn't notice they were gone. Despite the row of faces pinned like medals to my walls, I didn't earn them. The scratches on the wood are not my scars. If there's a smell of spices in the air, blame the trickery of kitchens or your sad addiction to the yesterdays that never keep, no matter how much you believe they will. I am not a time capsule. I do not value pithy things like locks of hair and milk teeth and ticket stubs and promise rings. Mere particles of dust I'd blow out to the street if I could sneeze. Take your high school jersey and your woman's wedding dress away from me. Sentimental hoarding bothers me. So off with you, old couch that cries in coins as it gets dragged out to the porch. Farewell, cold bed that breaks its bones in protest to eviction or foreclosure or whatever launched this grim parade of exits. I am not a pet. I do not feel abandonment. Sometimes I don't even see you come or go or stay behind. My windows are your eyes, not mine. If you should die inside me, I'll leave it up to you to tell the neighbors. Shut the heaters off. I do not fear the cold. I'm not the one who shrinks into the corner of the floor because whatever made you think this was a home with warmth isn't here to sweet talk anymore. Don't look at me that way. I'm not to blame. I granted nothing to the immigrant or exile that I didn't give a border crosser or a native born. I am not a prize or a wish come true. I am not a fairy tale castle, though I used to be in some distant land inhabited by dreamers now extinct. Who knows what happened there? In any case, good riddance, grotesque fantasy and mirth. So long, wall-to-wall disguise and vulgar suede and chintz. Take care, you fool, and don't forget that I am just a house, a structure with a soul for those whose patron saints are longing and despair. Let me move forward to the new. So I wrote I put together the book during the pandemic because, people were slipping away all around us. And I've never thought myself as lucky. So I thought, I don't think I'm going to make it through this. And I was living in Newark, which is one of the hubs. And around me, there was like 200 people dying a day. So I thought, there's no way I'm going to survive. And so I contacted my publisher and I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but my one dream, my one thing that I've always wanted to work up to was the new and selected. Can you let me just put it together and then, something happens, you don't have to publish it, but let me put it together and maybe sometime. And then I remember they're like, is there something going on? I'm like, what do you mean there's something? Of course there's something going on. And then later when I would talk to my friends and I would say, well, didn't you think you were going to die? They're like, no. I'm like, wow. I was like, I don't know where that optimism comes from because I did not have it. I was convinced that I was not going to make it. So I put together the new and the selected part, but I realized I didn't have many of the new. And I thought, well, it's got to be a new part. Some new in here, new poems. And I wrote most of the poems during the pandemic. And they run the gamut from just very bleak and very dark to some bursts of surprise, sometimes hope. So I had, both. It was a devastating time for me writing these poems, but also, again, there were moments where I woke up with a spark of something else that allowed me to write different kinds of poems. So it's one of those different kind of poems. This is Things I Find in Abuela's Bathroom Closet. A green towel, a blue towel, both with loose threads like spaghetti strings. I cut them off once, but by the next week they're grown out like weeds. Abuela darns abuelo's socks and says, just let them be. A white towel with the hotel logo. It's the nicest towel she has, or she doesn't remember who brought it home. A purple washcloth, its corners stained black. Shoe polish, though abuelo doesn't have shoes that need polishing. The polish smells of gloved gentlemen in black and white movies, their shoes as shiny as the top hats. Do they polish the hats as well? Abuela says, their mustaches too. How they dance like long pencils on a ballroom floor. A box of batteries, big candle-thick batteries, for flashlights, I suppose. A wig, a very strange wig, like a dead crow on the road. I put it on and it itches when I spin it on my head. Abuela says, don't play with that. And I say, please, at least until abuelo gets home. Abuela says, just don't tell anybody. I grab abuela's flowered bathrobe, pretend to walk past those gentlemen in their shiny hats. How I blush when they tip them and lean in to whisper pretty things in my ear that sound like Pepe Le Pew, amour. My wig comes alive like a cat and purrs. Abuela says, silly boy. A box of bobby pins, a box of incense, a box of matches, a box of soap, the lavender I breathe when I press against abuela, a tube of red lipstick. I've never seen abuela wear lipstick, her brown lips so sun-chapped from working in the fields since the 60s. A blue tin moisturizer, a red tin of cream that smells like rancid mayo. Abuela says, don't touch that, it burns, and burns it does. My fingers catch fire and I scream. Abuela shakes her head as she washes my hands. She wipes them clean with a green towel. I glare at the tin that reads Belly Jelly Burner Cream. Abuela says, who knows who left it there? She goes back to her needle and thread. I go back to the closet. A black bra like two funny hats sewn together. A black bra split open like a split open coconut. I'm about to ask Abuela about the black bra when Abuela's truck pulls up. Abuela says, quick, put everything away. I shove the boxes in, I push the towels in, I hide the wig and the polish. But when I stick my arm inside the cubbyhole, I feel yet another box. A box I missed the first time, a box deep inside the closet's belly, a box with a plastic penis like a flashlight, a plastic penis with big fat batteries, a plastic penis with a knob I can turn, a plastic penis that buzzes but won't light up. I hold it to my chest and it hums to me. It's what those ladies in the black and white movies must feel when their gentlemen press their mischievous mustaches against their lady heart's bird, courting bird. Let's see, we have time for two short ones. So this is one of those sad poems. This is well, you'll see. Cage. Thousands of unaccompanied migrant children could be detained indefinitely. Newspaper headline, 2019. In a world of loss, gratitude is what I demand for keeping precious catch within my reach. No one despises a shepherd for collecting his flock. No one accuses a watchman of making a captive of his charge. I am like a holster or sheath, all function and no fury. Don't you worry as I swallow you whole. Those ulcers in my gut are only windows. The stoma punched into my throat is just a keyhole. Don't be shy. Hand me the rattle of your aching heart, and I'll cradle you, bird with broken wing. Let me love you. I will hold your brittle bones together. I'll unclasp your beak so you can sing. Ours is a world of always leaving, but here you can always stay. And I'll end with this one. This is a note on resentment. While traveling in Mexico, I spent a weekend with friends of friends in Texcoco. They had a white dog. I don't recall whether he had been inherited or rescued, but I won't forget this detail. He had worked in a circus. To prove it, my host threw a stuffed animal into the pen and the dog seized it, running a wide circle close to the fence as if in rehearsal for a performance in the ring. But instead of simply holding the stuffed animal as he ran, he swatted it about violently, a kind of rage that seemed unbecoming of his training. He thinks it's the monkey, my host told me. He's like traumatized from all the times he had to carry the monkey on his back, so now he's getting his revenge. My host laughed at this speculation, which seemed logical, if not a bit unfair, since the monkey too had been trained to ride the dog like a horse, likely wearing a precious hat and a leather vest. The monkey too had been imprisoned by its garb, its commands, its inability to break out of an indoctrination that shrunk its knowledge of its body, agency, and place in the world. I watched and pondered, who am I in this equation, the dog or the monkey? I used to be the monkey, locked inside my fear of not being liked, trapped by the need to be loved. Now I'm the dog. I'm definitely the dog. I hope to shake past burdens off, but even into middle age, I'm still unwilling to let go. Thank you very much.
I'm trying to put it together a selected now, so I'm learning. I will be talking to you a lot about this. I'm very, very happy to read with you. And thank you for this invitation. Thank you, everyone who's here. I've been thinking a lot about children lately, and children who grow up too fast. So I want to start with this poem. So you might remember back in 2016, Philando Castile everyone remembers that, was right, killed in Minneapolis. And I always ask my students to listen for the voice they're not hearing. So anytime there's a situation like that, I look all around to see where is the real story. And of course, he had a legal gun and was going for the documentation and was shot by the policeman. So you've got the policeman's point of view, you've got his point of view, you have his partner who was in the car and live streamed the whole thing. You have her point of view, but then you have a 4-year-old at the back seat. And I was thinking that when she was strapped into that back seat, she was a child. When she was taken out of that car seat, she'd grown up. She knew things she didn't know before. So then I say, what's it like to be a 4-year-old? And I started thinking about cartoons and how we see a cartoon and Elmer Fudd shoots Daffy Duck and his beak goes around 50 times and then stops, and the next scene he's back. So that's where this poem comes from. It's called Get Up 7 Times, Fall Down 8. The roadrunner is a beeping charmer, feather-tipped redhead, hooked to his lusty habit of turning the coyote into blooming asterisk and spectacular dust. It's believed that he has no soul. The coyote, bewildered and bulge-eyed, dies and dies and dies in a bloodless loop. His bones, ludicrously close to the sky, lance his nappy pelt and leave him deflated, as flat as the earth he tramples. Or he hurtles forehead first into sudden walls, conjured by his turbo-footed rival, and seems incredulous as his own skull splinters and falls to his feet. Or, sucked into a paint-by-numbers tornado, he is speedily disemboweled, and thanks to a rapid-fire array of boulders, anvils, catapults, and cannons, which betray him after the bird's sonic boom getaway, the coyote's spine habitually launches itself through the top of his head. And Lord, there he goes again. He falls. He's the undisputed master of the drop, descend, plummet and plunge, the dive, tumble, the topple, from mountains, from needle-topped cliffs, from the kind of heights that can simply not exist without religion. He falls and smashes into the canyon floor with such force that his body smokes shut. And we fools think what we have always thought. Surely such a cascade has folded his needy soul into the earth again. Surely he's joined the ancestors. But through it all, the coyote's fat heart is such a treacherous engine. Roadrunner beeps gleefully, draws in a breath, and before that breath is released, the killed coyote is whole, crazy, ravenous for fowl again. He doesn't seem to have learned his loud lesson. He doesn't care that he's been killed so much, so many thousands of times, killed like a black boy on a weekday. He doesn't care how many times he's been axed, blown open, set ablaze, needled with plump cartoon bullets. All that matters is that his skin is not broken. All that matters is that his bulged eyes never really close. 2. Little kids talk about dead people as if they just laid down for a nap or went to the corner bodega. They'll be back. Just give them some cool water, a peanut butter jelly sandwich, some aspirin, baby, some magic. They'll come back. Look at that wolf thing. He fall off a whole mountain and he come back. That mouse keeps on killing that cat Tom, just keeps killing and killing him, and he comes back. Elmer Fudd shoots Daffy Duck right in his head, twists his mouth all the way round, 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 but that duck's all right. At age 4, children begin to grasp the idea that death is final. 3. Deanna Reynolds is the daughter of Diamond Reynolds, who is the girlfriend of Philando Castile, who is dead, far beyond the reach of aspirin or even magic. Deanna is 4 years old, but Deanna grew up fast, fed by the iron stench of Mama's boyfriend's blood soaking into the dim upholstery of a 97 Olds. She grew up when she heard her mother swear and snot weep while narrating a murder. That day she grew wobbling hips and dark lipstick. She all of a sudden knew what's up with whiskey. She knew nightmare wider than sleep. He gonna stand up soon, Mama, right? Deanna was handed more history than she could hold. The not coming back, sorry, of recaptured slaves beaten of their nouns, men as wind-scarred foliage, wizards who somehow suicide themselves in the back seats of squad cars with both left and right hands cuffed behind their backs. Just sing him a funny song, Mama, he'll wake up. But Deanna is beginning to see that belief in those Hanna-Barbera resurrections is a fool's errand. No use waiting for Philando to nail his finale in this sweltering car while Mama swirls in her sweat and screeches, fuck, fuck, fuck. And remember that wolf though, Mama, he fell real far. Remember? And he was all right. But baby girl has locked eyes with another wolf, silver-starred and grit. That's the one who did it, Mama screams. But that duck's mouth got shot off, Mama, remember? The child slapped grown by gory ritual, baptized by a scarlet gush from somebody's daddy. Stand up, Lando, or somebody's boyfriend, or somebody's brother, or somebody's mama, or blood ain't real, Mama, it's just color, or somebody's baby boy or baby girl, or second cousin, or somebody's auntie. Stop playing, Lando. You scaring Mommy. Deanna, this time there will be no getting up. There will be no getting up, no standing, no more for Lando. But Mama, remember that cat? He named Tom, right? Get up, Lando. Lando is dead. He not dead. Deanna, there is no magic. I'm gonna talk to God, Mama. He's gone. People don't be gone, Mama. Not like that. On the TV, but he's dead. But Mama, he dead. Get up, Lando. You scare me too. Still strapped in her car seat, bathed in the heat of fresh kill, baby girl stops summoning hoodoo, forgoes fable, stops saying, but they always wake up. Behind her eyes, there's that clenched sorrow, that providence, and it screams through her body and bends it. With those eyes fixed on the new bottom floor of her life, she says her first words as a woman. Oh, okay, Mama, okay, he dead. Now, please, stop cussing. Stop screaming. I don't want you to get shooted. I'm putting together a collected too, and it's hard. What you said about changing things, I go back, because I started by getting up on stage and doing work. So I was just writing. If you look at one of my old poems, it's like, and because it was on stage, you do a lot of scene setting. The people can't see the poem later, so you say, here's where we are, here's what you see, here's what, And then some people say, don't change it because it's a good snapshot of where you were at that time. But the poet in me now goes, oh, no. We have to get rid of all these abstractions. So I'm going to read a couple of new things. I have a very strange relationship with my mother who doesn't. And my mother and I, without going into a lot of it, I will say that if we were not related by blood, we would probably not be friends. And you'll know when you hear this. Okay, so and people often ask me, is there anything you wouldn't write about? And this was the last thing. It came really hard. But I'm writing about it like crazy now, and it's helping me, so. The price of the end of it. But now it's her stooped body in cue for the slab, her blessed temperature you're fiddling with, and God's holy directive shifts accordingly. Your mother holds the tasteful funeral home brochures an inch from her eyes until their horrible words unblur, shakes her head at the insane cost of the gilded pall-born tribute she truly craves, asks again for whatever is cheap. May her Lord forgive you as you just keep shuffling that cremation info to the top of the pile. You remember how stupidly she bobs her napped head to the wagging finger of God. God again, always God. How resolutely she clutches all the bluish notes in gospel. For her, the fire next time is not a frugal means of disposing of soulless shells. It is payback for a life clawed together outside of her Savior's cold little classroom. Oh, never you mind the lesson she drilled into you after a handgun blasted your father out of the world. What she said to end your bouts of snot and fever, your worrisome new habit of snatching tufts of hair from your own head and screaming the onsets of dawn. Your daddy's not in that old body anymore. And you unrolled your eyes just in time to look that pliant, just in time to make her think you believed her. Now that she has refused the neat conclusion of ash, you are thinking of all the damned reams of paperwork glorious ceremony requires, the feel of scrawling your name over and over to officially end her. There will be too many syrupy flowers draped over everywhere, the casket lid flipped open, your oblivious mother's vaguely whorish makeup job. You dread the hearse's eerie creep through annoyed Ubers, the depressing pit, mourners sneaking cell snaps, taking note of your absence of ache. While this strange woman comparison shops, zeroing in on the pauper special, girl, what is a cloth casket? You remember years of screaming her name into a dead phone after she scrubbed her whole history of your needy little face. Now that she is frail and beholding, you should demand that she answer for that kind of love. Or you can love that way too. Go on, throw a match into her hair. Oh, let's perk this up a little. Okay. You know, and it's weird. You go, oh, let's perk this up a little, and you look at your books and you go, there's nothing in here. I only write when I'm upset. I can do this. Okay, this will work. Okay, I'm sorry. It's like I don't. Okay, so I used to teach at the College of Staten Island, and the College of Staten Island, they accept everyone. So you can have a poetry workshop with 30 people in it. Some who could have books published the next day, some who never should have graduated from high school. And you have to make a class out of that. So it was hard to get a lot of my students to write. So I come in one day, it's the day of the final, and I say, good news, no final. And they go, yay, yay. You know, they carry me around on their shoulders for a while. And I said, but I have something that I do need you to do in class today. And I asked them what their most difficult age was. So what was your most difficult age, anybody? 14, 16, 32, yesterday. I know, 32, okay. Yeah, so their consensus was 13. Because 13 is, you know, it's that whole middle school thing. If you have skin, something is wrong with it. You know, there's this whole nether region thing happening. You don't know what's going on. Your voice is cracking, you know. So I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a poem about being 13. I want it to be 13 stanzas, 13 lines each stanza, and 13 syllables each line. Right. So then they're like, oh, okay, we'll do that. And I said, and whenever I get something like that, I do it too. But my 13 was not like their 13 at all. But there's some things that are just kind of universally miserable, right? So I'm definitely not going to read all 13. I'm going to pick a couple out of here and read to you. I still can't believe I wrote this first one, but it's 1. You touch your forefinger to the fat clots in the blood, then lift its iron stench to look close, searching the globs of black scarlet for the dimming swirl of dead children. You thread one thick pad's cottony tail, then the other through the little steel guides of the belt. You stand and lift the contraption, press your thighs close to adjust the bulk, then bend to pull up white cotton panties bleached blue, and just to be safe, you pin the bottom of the pad to the shredding crotch of the Carters. Oh, I see a couple of people are like, yeah. And then you spritz the guilty air with the cloying kiss of FDS. Yeah, remember FDS? You walk into the classroom and go, who is it? Okay. It's time to begin the game of justifying ache. Time to name the mystery prickling that's riding your skin. You're convinced the boys can smell you, and they can. 3. Miss Stein scribbled a word on the blackboard, said, who can pronounce this? And the word was anemone. And from that moment you first felt the clutter of possible in your mouth, from the time you stumbled through the rhythm and she slow smiled, you suddenly knew you had the right to be explosive, to sling syllables through back doors, to make up your own damn words if you needed them. All that day, sweet anemone tangled in your teeth, spurted sugar tongue, led you to the dictionary where you were assured that it still existed, to the cave of the bathroom where you warbled it in bounce echo, and finally, convinced you owned that teeny gospel, you wrote it again and again and again and 4. Trying hard to turn hips to slivers, sway to stutter, you walk past the Sinclair station where lanky boys, dust in their hair, dressed in their uniforms of oil and thud, rename you pussy with their eyes. They bring sound shudder and blue from their throats just for you, serve up ancient sonata of skin drum and conch shell, sing suggesting woos of AM radio. Boom, boom, how you just gonna walk on by like that? And suddenly you know why you're stitched so tight, crammed like a flash bomb into pinafore, or obeying your mama's instructions to be a baby as long as you can. Because it's a man's world, and James Brown is gasoline. The other side of slow zippers. He is all of it. The pump, pump, the growled, please, please, please. 8. In the bathroom of the whatnot joint on the way to school, you get rid of the starch and billowed lace, barrettes taming unraveling braids, white knee socks, and sensible hues. From a plastic bag, you take out electric blue eyeshadow, platforms with silver glittered heels, neon fishnets, God, the 70s, and a blouse that doesn't so much button as suggest shut. The transformation takes 5 minutes, and you emerge feeling like a budding lady, but looking, in retrospect, like a blind streetwalker bursting from a cocoon. This is what television does. Turns your mother into clueless backdrop, fills your pressed head with the probability of thrum. Your body becomes just not yours anymore. It's a dumb little marquee. 1 more. 9. With your bedroom door closed, you are skyscraper bouffant, peach foundation, eyelashes like upturned claws. You are exuding ice. You are pinched all over by earrings. You are way too much woman for this room. The audience has one chest, a single shared chance to gasp. They shudder, heave, waiting for you to open your mouth and break their hearts. Taking the stage, you become an S, pour ache into hip swings. Tisk, tisk as the front row collapses. Damn, they want you. You lift the microphone. Something illegal comes out of you, a sound like titties in oil. I wrote that. Titties. What in the world was I thinking? A sound like titties in oil. Just take that home with you tonight. Okay. Mama flings the door open with a church version of your name. Then you are pimpled, sexless, ashed and double Dutch knees. You are spindles. You are singing into a hairbrush. Okay. Yeah, remember that? I used to put my father's dress shirt on my head with the sleeves hanging down like this and walk around the house. You couldn't tell me shit. Okay. Probably two more. Is that okay? Okay. One from this book. Oh, okay, that's what I'll do. I'll do this. It's not going to be funny. I wanted it to, but it's not going to be funny. Or this one. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This one, okay. So, Incendiary Art was written, once again, listening for the voice I'm not hearing, it was written for the mothers of people who were losing their lives, sometimes, but not always at the hands of the police. And I wonder about them folding themselves back into their lives afterwards. Many times they were still living in the neighborhoods where they lost their child. So this is called The Mother Dares Make Love Again After. I wake with dawn, yawning an unbridled itch across the span of my chest, as if there is a lie that will die if it is not sung. I begin inarguably alone, raveled in unwashed sheets and cloaked in funk, so slantly rhymed I suspect its drift is what forces my eyes open. Unnerved by my own lazy arithmetic, I stink this way to stay lonely, to explain why old fingers won't remember the scarlet art of turning a man into moan and spectacular dust. I stink to stay vital, to bless my lumped body with a structure while I wallow in the want of a flap-mouthed kiss or a dime store card crammed with plastic music, mailed by someone who knew me before my plummet, utter, and south. Fall into my collapsing circle of arms because this Tuesday has spiraled wildly and led you here. Fuck me in the general direction of history. I will teach you to mourn with your whole damned face, to unreel a keening as crave becomes remember. The horrid moon splatters glow on these dirty sheets that still know me as saint and commands you to weep my life. You crush me with your damning glimpses, Anna. You, so rancorous, so wounding, and so cruelly bred to stain a man with scarring he won't see. Unsaid, my reckless want of you, this yearning, thirsting blue inside these hands, is seed for malady, the mud that clogs my throat, a pantomime of moan and knees. Go home, you growl. I slip by agonized degrees into the sound. You mouth my name, unlatching flood. I beg you, Anna, search for mercy. Heave my hurt and humbled body close. Let pity drive your slight, unwilling hips into the waiting, sweated blight of mine. Let loose that rasping whisper. Shed your shirt and raise me slow, your mouth demolishing the rest of who I am until I gasp defeat against the firelight in your neck. I just can't see the sense in your bedevilment. What keeps you so possessed by wider gazes, dreaming you're the fool of those who'd ravish without wonder? Come home to the skin you know. Come staunch this mayhem with the medicine inside your sacred hold. Give me what you suppose that white man craves. Oh, Anna, drop me to my knees and call the shaming love. By now, I must have riled you past vexation into wanting. If not, I'll crouch here in blue, content to be your wreckage. Please. Thank you all very much.